Hi guys, welcome to Classic Rock and Country Music Facts and Trivia. Thank you for stopping by. Back to rock and roll today after yesterday's country, and it's albums that caused some of rock's biggest bands to break up. We'll start with Eagles' Long Run. By 1978, the Eagles were unquestionably one of the biggest bands in the world. They were also exhausted. After the monumental success of 1976, Hotel California, and the nonstop touring that followed it, the group was burned out. Rather than taking time to recharge, they headed into the studio and attempted to make a double album. The Eagles' bandmates were already famously contentious. That, combined with collective writer block and add pressure to follow up a career-defining LP, created a power keg of discourse. The band struggled mightily, and eventually the Long Run arrived in 1989, 18 months after they started recording it. By the time they hit the road to tour behind the LP, Glenn Frey and Don Felder could barely share the same stage together and threatened physical violence towards each other. Frey announced that the band was finished and refused to talk to his former bandmates, even in order to complete their contractual required live album. It wouldn't be until 1984 when the Eagles reunited. The Beatles Let It Be. It was designed to bring the Beatles back together, but they ended up fracturing beyond repair. The band's biggest band the world has ever seen was crumbling under its own success and the baggage that came with it. When they arrived at Twickenham Film Studios in early 1969 to rehearse, the project was being filmed for a documentary, part of Paul McCartney's plan to reinvigorate the group. But it didn't work. At separate points in the process, both George Harrison and Ringo Starr temporarily quit the Beatles. Yoko Ono was a constant presence, further fraying relationships between the bandmates. Let It Be may not have been the final album the Beatles recorded, but it was the album that tore them apart for good. Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. The relationship between Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel had been unraveling for years. But it was while making the 1970s Bridge Over Troubled Water that completely fell apart. Garfunkel, who was pursuing an acting career, took a role in the movie Catch-22. Filming took place when the duo was supposed to be working on their album, greatly angering Simon, who believed his partner's priorities had shifted. As Garfunkel's filming commitment was extended longer than expected, Simon took on almost all the responsibilities in making Bridge Over Troubled Water, later claiming it was really only a Simon and Garfunkel record in name. The LP featured some of the duo's best work, but the partnership was over. The two split up acrimoniously, with each other pursuing solo endeavors. Van Halen Balance. Sammy Hagar's arrival was supposed to represent a new and harmonious era in Van Halen's history, and it did, for a while. However, after the success near decade together, the Van Hagar lineup began falling apart. Arguments over song style and lyrical direction plagued the sessions for Balance, while the omnipresent shadow of the grunge revolution hung over their heads. Meanwhile, Eddie was recording sober for the first time in his life, and the newfound clarity had him questioning what or who was right for Van Halen. Hagar later admitted he knew during Balance's recording that the end of his time in the band was near, even alluding to whispers about David Lee Roth's return. By 1996, Van Hagar had officially ended. The Cars, Door to Door. The Cars enjoyed great success through the late 70s and early 80s, with 1984's quadruple platinum selling Heartbeat City, the glossiest album of their career. Though the band was happy with the result, they were determined to get back to basics with their next LP. Now, unfortunately, doing so showed just how much the Cars had changed since the early years, and how far apart the band's members had become creatively. Disputes in the studio were commonplace, with frontman Rick Kozik, who also produced the album, regularly clashing with bassist Benjamin Orr. The relationship between the bandmates got so bad that they wouldn't even ride on the same tour bus together. Door to Door was a commercial disappointment, and the Cars announced their breakup in 1988. Orr died of pancreatic cancer before the band could reunite, making Door to Door their final effort as a quartet. And there you go. There's more. If you want to hear more, that's cool. Let me know. I just didn't want to drag this on too long. and I picked what I thought was the best out of the slew of what they had. But that's all I have for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please don't forget about classic TV facts and trivia, please. It's on Jackie Gleason's show, and how he hired a wrestler, a real pro wrestler, to be on the show, and it almost broke his neck. Please don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to like this video. You guys have a great day. God bless. And I am praying for you.